Hello, happy Sunday, and welcome to another episode of the Unbox Your Heart Potential podcast in life, love, and leadership with your host, Kat. Today, another solo episode. And I don't know about you, but spring is here. I feel like, the temperatures are cold, but sun is shining, the moods are lifted, and what an amazing day to go into conversation with you again. So this past Friday, for the third time or so in a row, I opened the leadership program of the local Chamber of Commerce. And, it's such an honor to be exposed to local leaders. They come from all walks of life. They have a very different amounts of years of experience. They come from different industries, nonprofits, for-profits, manufacturing, trucking, distribution. It's amazing. And one of my intentions always is when I kick this program off is to bring everybody on the same page, to help them build connections with one another, because they spent the next, I don't know how many weeks with each other, 10 to 12 weeks, I think. And one of the pieces I also try to hit on is breaking down what leadership is really about, right? If you Google leadership, what comes out? Well, it's the ability to lead, to influence, to guide other people, right? And that sounds great, right? And I think Simon Sinek says this, we oftentimes get promoted because we're really good at our jobs, but we never really learn how to lead people, like how to do that job of a leader, right? And if you've been in my orbit for a while, you know that like I think of leadership as a ability, as a skill, as a trait that every one of us has inside of us, but that we need support in bringing it out, in really stepping into our leadership potential. So the way I always explain it is in life, right? When we meet other people, we essentially meet a box, right? A fellow box, like two boxes. If you watch this, you see the video, two boxes, right? Cross paths, right? And within that box, what is it? You guys should know this by now. It's the heart, right? And in this case, this green heart here comes out of this orange box, right? But there's another one, right, that looks a little different. This one, right? So we have two hearts, right, meeting. And remember, they're captured, so to say, within that box. Remember, the box represents like different life experiences that have shaped the perceptions of these quote unquote hearts. Remember what the heart stand for? It's a person's values, right? Their decision guiding principles that they personally honor when making decisions in life. The E, we all are very differently excited about different things, different tasks, different circumstances light us up, right? Like my brother and his girlfriend, like they love going hiking. They love going skiing. They're very active. Personally, my husband and I are very content with weekends at our home, like doing things around the house. That's very different, right? So like bringing these two different excitement levels into one playing ground can be a challenge. The A, what are your unique abilities, right, that have led you to your unique accomplishments, things that you're proud of in your life. And mind you, again, these look very different. The R, what's your reason for being? What's your reason for going to the grocery store, for going to a dinner place, for going to work, for going on vacation? What's your reason for the type of car you drive, the way you raise your kids, the way you are with your dogs? Everybody has a different reason for why they're doing things. And that can be small and big. Like you guys know by now, I know that my purpose is to really lift the energy, lift the feeling of connectedness, spreading more joy, spreading more love, spreading more kindness in this world. If you'd ask my husband, I don't think that he would say the same thing, right? But does he want to make a difference? Yes. Like he has too, like a very interesting, or is very interested as well in developing people, making people big, right? So we all have different reasons for being. One point that came up in class on Friday already was, well, what if people say, well, I'm just here for a paycheck? Or what if we talk about, if we judge people that they are just there for a paycheck and don't care, quote unquote, which actually leads me into the topic of today. I forgot to say that, you guys. We want to talk about the importance of like language, tone, attitude in leadership. So we'll get there. Don't worry. But all of these things are important so far. So Sometimes, I overhear managers, leaders say, well, the problem is they don't care. They, being the employees, they're just here for the paycheck. And I asked the question to the group, is that like a problem? Yes or no, right? And it was funny because two people, and they were clearly from two generations. One was saying, no, absolutely not. The other one was saying, yes, it is, because then they're not as invested. And so the person who said, no, absolutely not, he right away explained that, well, if you have kids, like some people, like they're just literally there for the paycheck, but their paycheck goes towards their kids, which is their big purpose, right? But they might not be as consciously saying it as if like somebody from a different generation. We all know the younger generations care more about the bigger purpose, the I want to feel fulfilled at work, right? Like they carry that within their hearts, but both purposes are valid. Both purposes have meaning and are very influential in a person's drive and behavior. Then T, right? Truth, intuition. What is your intuition telling you? What is it guiding you towards? I always say within a company, within a team, the T, you can exchange it and think of it as your truth, your vision for the team, right? I always try to, especially with the purpose, that can be equivalent to mission, right? Like, why is the company here? When I did a talk a couple months ago in a manufacturing setting, I looked at their website, right? And from conversations with the leadership team, it was very clear what this company's purpose was. So under heart and under R, that's what I had listed, right? Their mission statement, essentially, right? And so why do you want to know that? Because if you have the heart of an organization, of the company, you can easily help the employees of all levels to connect to that heart, to have them gain clarity of their heart and then mesh it up so that people feel naturally, genuinely connected to an organization. Okay, so how did we get to like language, attitude, tone? Well, that same young gentleman who said, purpose matters. And if you hear this right now, right, I know you didn't say this with a bad intention, but I picked up on it. If you recall, I did say something to it then as well. I want people to be mindful of the way they talk about their people and the way they talk about interacting with them, especially when it comes to like disciplinary action too. So we're talking about the example of if employees behave differently than what's expected of them, like how do you go about that? What do you do? And we brainstormed, we talked about, we're going to talk with them. And I asked them, okay, great. Like, how do we talk with them? What are the words we're choosing? What's the tone we're choosing? Do we create a sense of community or do we create a sense of, I told you so, right? Attitude matters. And the one thing I asked as well was, well, how often are you going to talk to them before you do something differently, right? And this young fellow was like, well, at some point you got to can them, right? So my Germans out there, like, to can somebody is kind of like to throw them out, right? To pretty much fire them. And I made a joke out of it. I laughed. I'm like, no, please don't just can them, right? And he laughed. He's like, no, that's not what I mean. But like, that's essentially the challenge, right? Like we want to be mindful of the words we're using, the language we're choosing, whether we're having a serious conversation or whether we are actually just joking. People, like, because the thing is, we're gonna make this joke within a company setting. People walk by, they hear you say that, and they're not going to give you any grace, and they're not going to, and they shouldn't, right? Like, you want to carry yourself a certain way when you are responsible, not just for yourself, but for other people as well. So be very mindful of the language you're choosing, right? You could say something different, like, well, at some point, you really want to hold them accountable, and even to the concept of accountability. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to release a podcast on, instead of holding people accountable, you can hold people able. That's actually a concept Susan Scott, a concept. She just said that in one of the sentences in her book, and I picked up on it. I'm like, ooh, that's an interesting thought. We're going to talk about that at in another session. But be mindful, you don't want to talk about people's livelihoods that way. You never want to say, well, at some point you got to can them. Imagine it was you. Like, do you ever want your leadership team to talk about you that way? Like, whether you made a big mistake, a small mistake, whether you, like whatever the reason might be, like picture yourself, if you hear somebody else say that about you, well, at some point we got to can them, right? Now, that was just like how do I say that? That was just like the trigger point for me where I was like, ooh, let's talk about the importance of language, like how we talk about people. A big one is when I hear people say they work under me, they're above me. I understand within an organizational structure, you have like a diagram or so that shows the reporting structures. But here's the thing, just because the reporting structure leads with little arrows to the top, so to say, on paper in 2D, doesn't mean that we need to take that language when we're talking about the people that work with us, okay? So instead of saying things like they work under me or they report to me, like you can say they report to me. I'm the biggest fan I am is like, they're part of my team. Like I had somebody on my team once where she didn't have like a direct report line to me, but she would support me in event management, event planning, like employee celebrations or so. Honestly, whenever I wrote an email with the vendors or something, I would always just refer to her as my right hand because that's like what she is for me. I don't need to say the person that's working for me, the person that works under me. It just like personally, I just noticed the energy that swings with it. And to be honest, like nobody was under me. And to be quite honest, nobody really is above you either. Like I understand we report to someone else, but I just want you to create like mindfulness, and I invite you to reflect on this, sit with this, sit with how that sounds when you like, how do you feel when somebody's like, that person is under me? Like like we never want to, and I need to say this, like most of you who are here, who are following this podcast, who support this kind of like leadership approach, you want to like create empowered like relationships with the people on your team. You want to make other people big. You want to create success together. So if you want to do that, be mindful of the way you talk about your team, right? So instead of saying that, like, again, they're part of my team, they're my right hand, they're in my team, they're responsible for XYZ. Because here's the thing, at the end of the day, no matter where you are in the reporting structure of an organization, at the end of the day, all you're doing is just fulfilling one bucket of the tasks and of the responsibilities that lead to the overall team success. So just because you like part of your responsibility is to also lead and guide other people doesn't mean that they're under you or that they're less than. And truly, I want to invite you to play with that thought, practice to exchange the language, to exchange the thought patterns that you have. To be honest, if you proudly say things like, they're under me and I'm on purpose choosing this tone, you honestly, based on my opinion, you should rethink like if you really want to be in leadership, because leadership is not about top down telling people what to do. It's about building them up, making them bigger, guiding them towards their goals, towards stepping into their potential. And so I really want to invite you, to reflect on that a little bit. And just because in the reporting structure we fall into different places, once again, does not mean that one or the other is better than or is more important than. Sure, responsibilities carry maybe different weights. I understand. Like if the accounting manager makes super important financial budget decisions, that they might, have a different pay scale associated with their type of responsibility. Great, I get that. But on a human level, they're not better than somebody with a lower pay scale, for example. So I hope that makes sense. If you have questions, I'm always here for it. Shoot me an email and let's talk about it. I can't wait. So let's see. Words under me. What else did we want to talk about? The tone. Like just this morning, I got a message from a friend from mine in Germany who approached her supervisor pretty much about an event she wanted to attend, right? And she needed to get like certain time off for that. And the thing is, the cause that she asked her supervisor for was actually benefiting not just her, but the people that she works with, right? And so she was so excited, but also concerned, like what he would say, because she knew already that that wasn't the first time that she would ask him about these kind of extracurricular tasks and activities. And so she was so bummed when he was like, nope, you're not going, it's not possible. And she made me a message and she's like, look, I understand like that he can't just approve my things all the time. I understand that. And I'm fine with a no. I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with, and what really like leaves a very draining and yeah, frustrating and feeling down vibe, is the tone he chose. Like he was very harsh, very cutthroat, very short. And as leaders, like I want all of us to be mindful of the tone we're choosing with people. And I've worked with somebody where I sometimes felt they would choose a harsh tone to not even like to signal to the other person, this is it for me. I'm not going into further conversation. There's again ways to navigate that. Like you can be firm, but like friendly and warm. When I first started in HR, somebody said to me, some issues you gotta like approach with the mantra of treat the person warmly and treat the issue coldly. And I sometimes feel that, because we on paper are responsible and have the on paper quote unquote power, again, there's the over people, which I can't even get myself to really say it. We think, okay, we can just choose whatever tone we think makes it easier for us. But I don't know about you, but I found like if we choose a warm tone, if we choose an approach of, hey, I see you. Now, this is at the moment not possible, but I hear you. I understand that this is important for you. It's unfortunately not possible right now, but keep going. I've seen greater results in, engagement and better turnover, like not better turnover, but like engagement, and people wouldn't leave the company. People would feel seen, they feel engaged, they feel heard. And yeah, I just feel it leads to greater, yeah, success. Like ask yourself what it is you want, right? Like you want to engage your people. You want them to bring ideas to the table. You want them to think outside the box, right? Like it's funny, like when you talk to people about, well, what are you looking for in a person? You look for all these qualities that they have ideas, they share their ideas, they're a team player, they support each other, they want to make things better. And then when they bring it up and you shut it down, that's not cool, right? Like, of course they feel frustrated. Of course they feel disempowered, right? So be very mindful of how you engage with the people. And trust me, like I worked for a CEO once and he's like, well, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I want to involve my people in important ideas and important decisions, because if you then don't take their idea, how do they feel then? And I was like, honestly, as long as you explain like why you weren't able to take their idea at this moment and why someone else's idea or input at this moment fit better to the bigger picture, there really shouldn't be a problem. And here's the thing. A lot of times people say to me, well, Kat, but that's so soft. And Kat, you can't be so nice to everybody. Well, it's not nice. It's just being kind and acknowledging that everyone on the team matters and that their ideas are welcome and heard. And if somebody, for example, would like want to get their ideas through all the time and would be annoyed then, or would show some sort of attitude, like negative, right? Draining attitude towards the team, as in like, well, why are my ideas never included? I mean, have that conversation with them. Be like, hey, look, it just didn't fit right now. Like, that doesn't mean that we don't value your ideas, but so far, like of the 50 ideas that you brought to the table, they weren't really fitting, but hey, keep them going. You never know when it hits. You never know that, right? So at the end of the day, you want to be just very transparent and very conversational with your team while you do certain things. So now we talked about the language we want to use. We talked about the tone. I don't know, like I'm just trying to think like typical sentences I would hear where I was like, oh no, don't do that. Like, I need you to do this for me. Can you get this done? Like, it's just, like that is tone and language combined almost, right? So instead of like, I need you to do this for me, is like, hey, by X date, like I need to have this presentation done. I would love for you to take on this task. By when do you think you can get it in, right? Make it conversational. Bring both of you on the same playing field, look in the same direction, and work towards it together. Just because you're the one in charge doesn't mean that you can be better than the other person. I think I said that enough now, right? But I'm very passionate about this, and I'm sharing this with you because it has been like the thing for me to like succeed in working with people. Like it's not about being soft. It's not about having understanding for everyone and everything. It's just having a healthy dose of understanding that people are people. We're essentially all the same, but we have different life experiences that we bring to the table at all times. And so we, on the one hand, it affects our self-esteem, right? So like when, hold on, I'm kind of blanking. So we're humans with a variety of different life experiences, right? So be mindful that anytime you talk with your team, you influence and build up on this huge list of life experiences. And so when I hear people say, oh, they're lazy, oh, they don't care, and people hear that, like, number one, ask yourself where does this come from, right? Like, how do they show their laziness, quote unquote? And where does it come from? Have they always been like that? And when I say always, I'm not just saying the time that they're on your team, but where have they developed that trait? I want to say that they are lazy. Like a lot of times people don't believe in themselves. So like if I don't believe in myself, I'm not putting my best foot forward because I think what? It doesn't matter anyway. So how do you change that as a leader? You seek the conversation. You're like, hey, I've been noticing that, when you handle this task, I feel like you're not giving 100%. How true is that? Allow them to think and reflect about their behavior. One of the most important things is, as the leader, you need to have belief in your people. You need to believe in them more than they do, honestly, and then approach them and say, hey, I think you can do better. What do you think? If you're being completely honest, do you give 100% right now? No? Okay. Why not? And how can I support you? Right? A lot of times people, when you seek that type of conversation, when you're like, I don't think you're giving 100 people, normally, quote unquote, people get scolded for that. People get reprimanded for that. They get like punished for that. So of course, if they enter their work life with you, with these past experiences, the minute you like punish them, they're gonna be like, oh, see, of course, now I didn't do 100%, so of course I get punished. Break the cycle. Please break the cycle. All of this takes longer, but by doing that and by taking that approach of really truly going into conversation with your people, of helping them resolve these limiting beliefs, you're gonna get the best out of your people. And don't you want that? Don't we, at the end of the day, all want to have our team at its best? Now, as I'm saying that, okay, don't you get greedy, as in, well, yeah, I want my team to be best so that I can make the big profit. No, you need to, like, if you choose an empowering leadership approach with the underlying want and desire of just being the best or just making profit or just for your, like any of the reasons that just feed your ego, it's not gonna work. I can promise you that. People sense that. We are like sensitive beings. We're energy beings, okay? So like however you approach them with whatever attitude, they will feel that. So if you choose an empowering leadership approach, if you truly want to get the best out of you and your team, you need to genuinely be interested in them. Genuinely. When you stop them and say, hey, I'm not sure that you're giving 100%. What's going on? And they feel it really is just about the bottom line, but not about them, like that you really want to help them, you might as well just not start the conversation. Right? So I invite you to really think about everything you do. Do you really care about the person? And do you really care about leading a team, making them big, taking care of them, and meeting them eye to eye level, and at the same time meeting them where they are at and supporting them where they are at? If you're not like, I'm surprised to say this, but if you're not checking all these boxes, I really strongly invite you to develop your own leadership skills. Then I guarantee a lot of times it's not your team, it's your approach, how you interact with your peers, with your team, with the people that you report to. It starts with us. It always starts with us, right? Because your leadership approach stems from your past experiences, from the trainings you've been to, from the way you grew up, from the way you have worked with people in the professional setting. So I highly invite you to look at yourself and look at like the filters that you look through, that you view the people you're working with through. Okay, I think this is let's put a bow on it. So please, please, please go audit yourself, right? Look at like the language you're using. Are you saying things like, oh, they're under me? Find a different language. Say they're part of my team or something that works for you, right? When you choose the tone, make sure you're not like snippy or cold or harsh. At the other day, I was at a luncheon from the chamber and we were talking about fears in the workplace. And one of the persons said, well, I'm sometimes afraid that I come off too bossy. Look, if you know that about yourself, that you're sometimes a little assertive, communicate it with your team. Be like, hey, I just need you to know that sometimes I'm coming off a bit like assertive. I really don't mean it, but if it ever is too harsh, or if you ever feel there's something wrong with you or so, please don't hesitate to approach me. Essentially, you gotta go first in being vulnerable and saying, hey, I'm human and I'm willing to admit that. And I'm here to help you in your humanness to become the best human, like the best version of you possible, right? And then attitude. With what attitude do you engage with your people, right? Do you see them on eye to eye level? Do you see them as, worthy, or do you see them as if you need to like fix them? If you approach them with the need that you're better than and that you need to fix them, you're never going to be able to empower them fully, right? Goes hand in hand with when we give our reports a task and we want to build the confidence with them. We want to ask them, how would you go about it? And how can I support you? So that they actually gain awareness of what they can bring to the table and where they really need help. It's not on us to say, I will help you with XYZ. No, because they need to learn what they're good at already, where they need help with, etc. All right, I think next week or so, we're going to look at, Kat, what do we really mean by box, right? And actually, more importantly, what are all the dimensions of the box, right? Because there can be social limiting beliefs, but some of the limiting beliefs can sit really deep. Then I promised my Instagram crew that we're gonna talk about fears in the workplace and how to navigate them. And what I promised the episode on holding people able versus accountable. But if there's any other topic in like life, leadership, love, when I say love, I mean relationships, right? At home, at work, please, please, please send me an email or contact me on Instagram. Let's talk. And I'm so excited to keep growing with you. And thank you so much for being here for another episode of Unbox Your Heart Potential. Have a wonderful week, everybody.